Oh, hi, Terry here. Welcome to another installment of Times Gone Tech's DIY or homemade percussion caps for muzzleloaders series. So, homemade percussion caps for black powder revolvers and rifles or muskets using gun cotton, flash powder, and nitroglycerin. Well, heck yeah, why not? So, there's this idea floating around, which I'm not sure if I agree with or not, that percussion caps made using something like this Duco cement, which is a nitrocellulose based adhesive, not only makes the primer compound harder in the cap, which it does, and which also makes it more durable, but that because its primary ingredient is nitrocellulose, also known as gun cotton, that should or might or possibly could maybe also kick the power of the cap up a little. Well, let's have a look at that. So, what is nitrocellulose anyway? Well, nitrocellulose is literally cotton, like these cotton balls, treated in nitric acid. And that nitric acid actually bonds extra nitrogen atoms to the cotton fibers on a molecular level. And the process is called nitration. Duh. And what makes it burn really is the same process that makes black powder burn, where black powder has three elements: a fuel, an oxidizer, and then an igniter. All three of these elements are actually kept separate on a molecular level. The chemicals don't actually bond together. They're just mixed up and then pressed very closely together. But with gun cotton, nitrocellulose, nitrated cellulose, cellulose nitrate, whatever you want to call it, with gun cotton, the three elements are bound together on the molecular level inside the cotton fibers themselves. So the reaction takes place much more quickly, it burns more vigorously, and it burns more efficiently than black powder, thus making it more or less smokeless. Bear with me, you will see my point soon. Cat. Never hire a cat to be your camera operator. They just don't work out very well. I haven't tried a dog yet, but cats, they're okay until that natural feline ADD kicks in. Okay, so like most things, there isn't a nitrocellulose. There are a lot of different formulas and types or versions of nitrocellulose, depending on what its primary function is intended to be. Duco cement, for example, its primary function is as an adhesive. So even though it is flammable, both before and after being cured, that's not really the physical property that we're most interested in. We're more interested in its function as an adhesive. So it's only lightly nitrated. It's got just enough nitrogen bound to it really to classify as nitrocellulose. But the burn rate and flammability factor of, say, a smokeless powder is important to its function. So it's more heavily nitrated, or it's got more nitrogen bound to the cotton, making it more combustible. So because Duco or any nitrocellulose adhesive is only lightly nitrated, I think it's highly unlikely that it's going to contribute anything of any significance to the bang factor in a percussion cap. Makes a great hardener, and that's about it. But smokeless powder might. So again, like with most things, there are a lot of different types and formulations of smokeless powder. Now, I'm not an expert on smokeless powders, but I do understand the chemistry by which they all function. And there's really only two basic types: single base and double base. Now, for any of you gun nerds out there who might know of a kind of smokeless powder that is not nitrate based, just be aware that you're taking the time to mention that in the comment section will have no bearing on the outcome of this video whatsoever. Just letting you know. So, single base smokeless powder uses nitrocellulose, gun cotton, nitrated cellulose, cellulose nitrate, whatever you want to call it, as its primary base, as what it's built on. And then it has a few other ingredients to make it stable and hold its shape a little, whether it's a flake or ball or whatever. Double base powder is also made with nitrocellulose, but also has a very small amount of nitroglycerin added. Yes, I said nitroglycerin. And no, in very small amounts and when combined with other materials, nitroglycerin itself is not inherently unstable or dangerous. In fact, if you put a match to pure nitroglycerin in the open, it simply burns. It does not explode. It needs a secondary detonation source like a blasting cap to set it off. And no, the addition of nitroglycerin does not make the smokeless powder more powerful. Its function is to make it burn cleaner, producing less smoke than it would without it, and helps stabilize the nitrocellulose so that it can hold more nitrogen atoms, so it can be even more heavily nitrated. And that can kick the power up a little bit. But I'll get to that. Now, both nitrocellulose and nitroglycerin are easily soluble in acetone. So a viewer gave me this idea about taking some smokeless powder and making a nitrocellulose lacquer. So I ran down to my corner gun store and I bought some of this Green Dot double base smokeless powder, which he had on sale, $20, normally $60. Yeah, 20 bucks. Of course I bought some. I added a few tablespoons to this jar and filled it up with acetone and let it sit for a couple of days. I didn't do any supersaturation calculations. I didn't do any measurements or weights or anything. I just used my calibrated eye and I put a few tablespoons of smokeless powder in the jar and then filled it up with acetone. Let it soak and stir it up every day. And what I got is this really nice, thick, black, syrupy lacquer that is essentially super saturated. It hardens up or starts to harden up almost immediately. It has no smell. It's not, well, it smells like acetone. It's not mosquito. It's not inherently sticky, but when it's dried out, it does burn. Now, not as vigorously as you might expect, actually no more than Duco. But if, as I suspect, it is more heavily nitrated than Duco, then the question is, how will this work as a hardener and what will it do once it's confined inside a percussion cap, like smokeless powder inside a bullet casing? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. I made some percussion caps. I don't want to tip this up too much because I'll go rolling off of the aluminum. But basically what I've got here is I've got 6 percussion caps made using what we could call the standard method. These are all made with the wet load method, by the way. And that would be just using Duco cement as a hardener. And then I've got 6 made using a little bit of my homemade DIY nitrocellulose lacquer. And I kept the concentration of both about the same. I just, roughly 20–25%. If the lacquer doesn't work very well, if it's weak power, like maybe I put too much, it's interfering with the primer, the primol, I may go back and cut that in half. It might be that my lacquer is more concentrated than Duco, so I need less. We're going to find out on this first test. But anyway, 6 made using Duco, 6 made using DIY nitrocellulose / nitroglycerin lacquer, then 6 made, just for grins and giggles, using the Duco cement, and another idea given by another viewer, a little powdered aluminum. Now, powdered aluminum, when mixed with another ingredient, forms a fairly powerful explosive known as flash powder. And that's what makes fireworks, or firecrackers specifically, go bang. And to give you an idea of how powerful flash powder is, firecrackers only use about 1/10 of a gram, maybe, or less, and they use the lowest powered formula they could find, and that's a firecracker. So if we put some in a percussion cap and use the higher powered version, well, what's that going to do? Well, I'm not using the higher powered version in this test because that other ingredient is not in Primol or H48. But the aluminum itself might kind of kick the power up into a magnum level. So we're going to find out. I got another 6 caps made using Duco and another 6 made using my homemade lacquer with a little aluminum added. And keep in mind that none of these have glass in them because I took the glass out. So just for grins and giggles, again, I made up 6 more using Duco and aluminum and glass, and then 6 more finally using my homemade lacquer, aluminum and glass. And I'm going to shoot these off and let's see what we get. Okay, I've got my unloaded 1850 Navy loaded up with the first 6 caps, which is made with wet load method or slurry method using Duco cement as a hardener, no glass. Let's see what we got. Okay, not bad. One that I would call a weak fire, but no fires. Now the reason I'm only shooting caps right now is because I want to hear that weak fire if there is one. That could be important later on down the line because, as I'd mentioned before, even if one little spark gets through that touch hole into the powder, that main powder charge is going to ignite and burn just as powerfully as it might ever. Now there might be a light hang fire, but it's doubtful that it would not fire at all. And so if it did just fire normally, you know, the powder burns and pushes the ball out the chamber and all that, I wouldn't hear that weak powder because the weak bang from the cap would be just drowned out by the boom from that exploding triple F black powder. So that's why I'm only firing caps. Okay, that wasn't bad. I'm going to write that into my records. 1 low fire or weak fire, no fires. Okay, now the next 6 are going to be the ones that I made standard method using my DIY nitrocellulose / nitroglycerin lacquer instead. Not bad. A little more consistently maybe than the standard load using Duco. I'm going to have to go back and play this again and look at the sound levels, but it didn't seem all that more powerful, all of them. Maybe 1 or 2. But I noticed that there is definitely some variation in the bang factor. Some are a little more powerful than others. And I don't get that when I use the dry method. But we'll talk more about that in the conclusion. Okay, coming up, Duco cement, aluminum. Okay, Duco cement as a hardener, little extra powdered aluminum to see if it kicks it up to a magnum level. Wow. Wow. That was noticeably louder. That was a percussion cap. That was a magnum. Wow. I'm going to have to play that again. Okay. Next round. Same thing, but using my homemade nitrocellulose / nitroglycerin lacquer as a hardener instead of Duco cement. And also with aluminum, no powdered glass, by the way, and just one more time, slurry or a wet load method. Interesting. Interesting. I got a little more variation that time. And I'm wondering if maybe I do have a little too much lacquer added because it is really a lot thicker in viscosity than the glue is. I might go back and make up another batch using half as much nitrocellulose lacquer, and we'll see what happens. But next test coming up. Okay, final round. This next 6 is going back to the standard cap using Duco cement, a little aluminum powder, and this time I put the powdered glass back in just to have a visual comparison to see, does the glass really add anything or not. Maybe not to power, but possibly to consistency. Well, let's find out. Oh, there's a good one. Okay, interesting. I actually got almost a cap jam. Had that been copper or brass, it might have jammed it up. Now, in all fairness, this thing is getting really dirty. Let me show you this. It is getting really dirty. I didn't clean it up from that last 100 rounds that I fired through it. So that might have something to do with it. Maybe. We'll have to do some more testing on that. But that one little boop, that was an interesting to note. That was a standard cap with aluminum and with glass, which I did not get without the glass. Okay, next 6 coming up. Okay, last 6. Now this will be the standard production method, which I think I've explained enough times already, using my homemade nitrocellulose slash nitroglycerin lacquer, a little powdered aluminum, and a little sand back into the mix. Wow. Again, a little inconsistency in the power that I'm going to have to go back and look at the playback, but I didn't see that inconsistency, or I didn't hear it, don't remember hearing it, when I left the glass out. So it might be, in all fairness, again, I did not test a standard load without aluminum with glass, which I would need to do to know if it was the glass or not, but it could be the glass and aluminum just aren't reacting well together. However, in conclusion, I am screw loosening up. I got a screw loose. I got a little screw loose here. I am very impressed with the addition of a small amount of aluminum powder. And I think I might start using that now as part of my standard percussion cap load. And you'll notice again just how dirty this thing is. That's not rust. This is actually an orange dye produced by burning of the antimony trisulfide, which is a major key element in Primol or H48. There's just no way around that if you're going to use H48 or Primol. So what to take away from all this? Well, I'm getting probably a little more variation, you might be thinking, than you're getting from your homemade caps using a dry method. But remember also, these are experiments. I am trying for consistency. I don't want to say I'm not. I am trying for consistency, but we've got to understand that in any new experiment, inconsistency and anomalies are going to creep in. That's part of the experiment. We make a note of it. We go back and evaluate and try and understand why it happened. We work it out of the process, and then the process moves forward. So in these tests, we are going to see some low fires, some misfires, some hang fires. That's just going to happen. I think the best results that we got in this test, to my ear, I'm going to go back again and look at all the playbacks, but I'm going to put my money on a standard load using Duco cement and a little powdered aluminum with no glass. I'm also going to go back and try making up some more caps using my homemade lacquer and try adding about half as much. I may just have added too much and it's just interfering with the power of the cap. We'll find out because, it's nitrocellulose and nitroglycerin. It should work. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you have not subscribed, please do so. It ain't going to cost you anything, and it helps keep me on the air doing more videos like this on a variety of subjects. And if you have subscribed, thank you. Please don't forget to click the notification buttons also so you know when a new video is coming out. And please come back and watch a video occasionally, because there's this AI thing going on where if YouTube sees subscribers with no activity after a certain time, they clean them out. And I just got monetized, so I really can't afford to have half my subscribers cleaned out. So again, thanks for watching. Stick around for the next test, and see you next time.